My name is Cheney. I'm faculty in the School of Medicine in the Department of Social Medicine and Population Public Health. I really appreciate the Women in Medicine events. For me, it's an opportunity to celebrate my colleagues, an opportunity for our male colleagues to recognize that we are still underappreciated, undervalued, that we still experience inequities within medicine, within academic medicine. It's an opportunity for us to be able to elevate that, to recognize it, and to appreciate it, and to essentially try to move things forward so that in the future we don't have to have these type of events because there is equity. I'm an anthropologist, and so I am in many ways a token anthropologist in academic medicine here in the School of Medicine. I do not know of another anthropologist here in our School of Medicine. So in essence, my being in the School of Medicine challenges the status quo. My focus is on research, and I am a qualitative expert. I do mixed methods research, but I'm a qualitative expert. And qualitative research in academic medicine is devalued. And so I also challenge the status quo, I would say, via the methodology that I use. In addition to that methodology, I do community-based participatory research. So there are multiple ways in which I challenge the status quo, but I should say so much so through the work that I do with community. The fact that I'm an anthropologist, I'm focused on structural and social determinants of health, and I engage Latinx and Indigenous Mexican groups who are living in poverty primarily. And so I think all those things combined are ways in which I challenge the status quo. Academic medicine is essentially dominated by men, historically has been, and it continues to be. When I just think about my own department, for 5 years, I've been the only female faculty member. Well, we have had other partners and collaborators. They haven't been necessarily full-time faculty, and so that means that there's been a limited voice from the presentation of women faculty in particular. So I would have to say that there are many times when it's uncomfortable to speak up, but I know that I am in a privileged position. I am a white woman faculty member, and that's really important for me to recognize so that I can use my own privilege because of my racial and ethnic background to be able to advocate for other women who may not be able to or may not feel as comfortable doing that. But I certainly experience backlash consistently. So I think that for me, every day I'm reminded that I'm a woman and that I'm a woman in an academic, in a space, academic medicine that is historically and still is dominated by men. We're mothers. We are colleagues, we are partners, we're researchers, we're scientists, we are all these different things, and we do them well, and we often have to balance multiple competing responsibilities. And I think more people need to recognize that and need to also understand that because we are women, how we're socialized within our society, we don't have the same types of support at home, for example. We may or may not. In comparison to our male colleagues, our peers. And I think that is just so incredibly important. If you don't have the same societal structure that a certain group may have, like our male peers, then you experience inequities. And you have to strategize to be able to figure out how do you survive in such an environment and how do you succeed and do well. And I think that when you consider the women faculty in our School of Medicine, those who are in leadership positions, our dean, for example, we are fighters and we are committed and we are passionate. And even though there are these inequities, we will make sure to identify the strategies we need to be able to succeed. If I were to be able to go back and talk to my younger self, one, I would tell myself to recognize that it's okay to ask for help, to find really strong mentors. We're often given mentors, but it's more focused on research-oriented mentors who can help us progress in our career as researchers, rather than as women in a male-dominated environment. And so I think if I were to tell my younger self, I would tell her to find some more support systems and mentorship from women who have paved the way. Other things I would tell myself is to give yourself grace, to be kind, to make sure to balance work, life, emotional well-being, that those are so important and critical, and that in the end, your work will always be there. Your relationships, your friendships, your well-being may not be. And so just always prioritizing and privileging yourself and your well-being, your friendships, partnerships, family over the work, because that will always continue. Women faculty experience that male faculty or men faculty don't experience as much is the criticism from students. So sure, we experience criticism from our colleagues, perhaps similarly, I would say women more so than men, and particularly women of color more so than women like myself who are white. But what I think I really struggle with is the younger generations and their continuation of genderizing how they perceive women within the academy, and particularly within schools of medicine. So I really struggle with that, and that's something in the future that I hope that our students and younger generations can be more appreciative of diversity within the academy, because if we don't get them to understand how they are perpetuating inequities, then it's very difficult to make change happen, because they're the ones who we need to help make the change. What I hope will be different for women in medicine and science is that they don't have to have these conversations, that they can be sitting in the conference room with their colleagues and be referred to as doctor, not by their first name, and that they don't even have to question why anyone would not call them by their title. So I hope in the future that there is so much more equity. I know that women have been we have been asking for equity for over a century. And yes, we've made gains, but we've also gone backwards in some ways. And I think in the academy, it's frustrating to think that we haven't made more gains because we're perceived as a progressive institution. And so my hope is in the future that women, just as I mentioned, when they're sitting around a room with their colleagues, that there isn't this distinction between those who are women and those who are men, or any other kind of identifying gender.